But there's also those things that we are holding on to, which is part of our anger and resentment. But it's recognizing those things and dealing with them each time, instead of just going, oh, there's a man I don't want to talk to, or there's a young girl I don't want to talk to. Any of that stuff, as soon as you see that, recognize that. That's your GPS to go, hang on, I'm off kilter here. Pull me back into line. What's really going on? And resolve it as quick as you can.
Debz is a stressologist. She will stretch your mindset to think bigger than you've ever thought before, with follow-through techniques that are realistic and achievable to blow any fear out of your mind. Moira is a mindset cultivator. She will help you align your personal trinity of self-trust, inner awareness, and self-confidence so that you discover and share your unique gifts and purpose. Together, their goal with these conversations is to share how our inclinations do not always work in our best interest, and to provide the knowledge to leverage the gifts that already exist within each one of us. Their desire is to help you learn how to access the habits and behaviors that will lead to positive change and your best quality of life. Welcome to your deliciously motivated mindset.
Hello there. Hello there, listeners. Hello there, dear Deb.
Hi.
Hi. Here we are for another deliciously motivated conversation. How are you? And our little intro music from Deb.
Oh, I'm looking forward to today's one. Yay, yay.
We always do this. And like Deb, you've shared this before, that we get so excited when we look at what are we talking about today? Oh, this is a goodie. This is really good.
This is a goodie. I am really sure. I must actually listen to the start of each one. I'm sure we say that every time. I feel I say it because everyone is a goodie.
But you know, that's the truth. Everyone is. Everyone.
I know. I listened
otherwise, what's the point in talking about it?
I know. I listened to one the other day that we'd uploaded, and I thought, oh, this is my favorite. And then I'm like, no, you say that every week, Deborah. I'm like, okay, yes, it is my favorite. Till next week's one comes out.
Right, it's my favorite for this moment.
This moment.
But before we get into even revealing what it is we're talking about, we like to do our wee check-in, and just check in and give ourselves a score or a rating on a scale of 0 to 10 where we're feeling. So at 10, we're feeling like really overwhelmed and stuck, and oh my God, I don't know what to do to get out of what I'm in. And at 0, we're completely at 1, neutral, zen, nothing's bothering us whatsoever.
Zip, zip.
Yeah. So where would you say you are?
I would probably say I'm a 2, but I'm going to say a 3. I'm going to say a 2. I'm actually going to say a 2.
Okay.
My mind is pondering. I'm like, no, it's a 2.
Okay.
It's a 2 because there's not a lot of chaos happening.
Not a lot of chaos. Not yet. To be honest with you, I was going to say a 2 myself. But the other part, and we've talked about this before, that we can easily get triggered or have an aha moment, and that completely changes our if I said something, Deb, to trigger you or remind you of something that you may still be ruminating about, and then you might go,
which is so funny because that's what we were talking about before we got on this podcast.
Right. That's why we're both at 2, is because we both had stuff that was kind of bothering us. So maybe, and you've said this before, we should actually record our number when we first start talking, before we hit record.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah. So, and because our number, I know both of our numbers would have been different at the very beginning of this episode or our time together today.
Yeah, I think at the start of it would have been a bit more chaotic.
So then we sit and we calm our energy down, ready to talk to our dear listeners here.
Being a 2.
Oh. being so zen, but
And,
this is going
and
to...
today is a great one.
I know we're both so excited about sharing this. So we wanted to talk about mindset tips for releasing or letting go of anger or resentment. So...
Oh, I just have to giggle because I've just looked at my piece of paper when I wrote the title down, and I've got releasing angel or resentment.
Oh, okay. Well, we did. Well, you know, you could release angel. And
Releasing
have
the angel or resentment. Well, there's something going on there then. Mm-hmm. I clearly wasn't going to write the word anger down.
That's cute.
Yeah.
So you got the little devil over one shoulder and the angel over the other shoulder. Which one are you going to let go of?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Resentment's an interesting one, because resentment just can creep up on you without you even knowing, and can smack you on the back of the head like a big brick that just comes up, and you honestly don't even, I find you don't even know resentment creeps in. You're like, I'm fine with this, and suddenly you end up going from a 0 to 100 very quickly, and you're like, oh, where did that come from? And it's like, well, it's actually been creeping up on you, you've been ignoring it. And I find resentment one that just comes and can knock you quicker than most emotions.
And I completely agree with you. If we have anger, for instance, anger is like a fire. It's a volcanic. It erupts, right?
Yeah.
And so it will erupt and splash all over. So it makes it much more easy to recognize and go, oh, there is. And we'll circle back in a minute and talk a wee bit about releasing it. But resentment can be stewing as you tell a story. You know, that you see somebody do something or not do something, or say something or not say something, and you kind of stick it away in the back of your mind and you let it go, and then something else happens, and then something else happens. And then you end up, or you can end up, telling yourself some kind of story of, you know, that it's like a big broad stroke over all of this means that, which is actually completely not true. Right.
Well, that story, if you ask the other person who's involved, is like, what? Where did that come from? But yeah, the resentment, it is. But the resentment, I reference it as we call them a jug, a JUG, or a kettle, or you know, like a jug. Yeah,
we have them here too, jugs and kettles.
Well, there's other things for jugs as well. So
yes, we have the other things for jugs too.
Okay. So the jug is boiling away, and you put the water in, it starts simmering and it starts bubbling.
Right.
And this is what it's like. It's that resentment that starts bubbling and bubbling and bubbling and turning into steam.
Yes.
And it starts seeping out until you've actually boiled the kettle dry as such, and that's where the fire comes, and that's where it just blows and explodes. But it's that simmering that sometimes you don't even notice until the steam comes, and that steam is part of your resentment, you know, and your anger, and the little, you know, you let those little spouts out, because the steam is even, but there's bigger spouts of steam than others sometimes. Right. And then it just explodes.
So here's the thing. We all are emotional beings. Whether you want to access them or admit them or recognize them or not, we are all emotional beings, and we all experience emotions. One of the most important pieces that I do in my mindset cultivation work that I do with clients is to help people not deny or pretend away any emotion or feeling, because all emotions are your navigation system. It's your GPS.
Absolutely.
And so to your point, I love your analogy there about the kettle boiling and boiling and boiling and like simmering away. When we stay consciously present, and maybe that simmering has a feeling inside your body. Maybe you're clenching your teeth a wee bit. Maybe even clenching your fists, or you're holding your body. There's some form of tension. And so rather than get into blaming or shaming or saying it's somebody else's fault, because it ain't, it's yours. You created it.
Yours to deal with.
Yeah. And so then when you can sit in that and say, have the mindset of, I am experiencing this. I'm experiencing this sense of resentment or this sense of anger. And as soon as you do that, it doesn't have control over you, and you're having a willingness to just have that feeling. But there's another wee piece in here too, is when you have an emotion that's uncomfortable, it's like that GPS system that's saying, hey, honey, you're off course or you're a wee bit out of alignment. Take a pause, take a deep breath, and just see, do I need to reset? Do I need to refrain from telling myself that story, or pull the plug out on that kettle so that it's not continuing to boil, right?
It's unplugging yourself from the situation.
Yeah.
I think what you've shared so many golden nuggets there. The thing is, it's back to that same thing we bring up: acknowledgement. It's acknowledgement, because as soon as you acknowledge, you can actually move forward or sidestep or step back. Like, it's all down to you, whatever it is. But acknowledgement is so the key. The moment you recognize that, then you can assess. And that's how you can plow forward or not.
Absolutely. But you know the other part, so there's a few components, if you think about the different conversations that we've had, that acknowledgement, awareness, and responsibility. To me, I think that those are the critical components, right? So if we're aware, I'm aware that I've got this limiting emotion or this sense of anger or irritation, and I just acknowledge it. But I created it all. So if we get into that piece that my GPS has just said, whoops, when it's safe, take a U-turn.
Yeah,
Turn
handbrake. Yeah. I think the thing is also have a look at when you acknowledge, like, it's about taking responsibility for yourself, but also look at the people around you as well, to look at the role they've played, that you have either listened to them and taken on their stuff as well. And, because social influences can play such a vital role in our life, that it's, when we acknowledge, yes, this is my stuff, but okay, well, so-and-so played this game in front of me and this has affected me. It's actually not about that person, but it's recognizing those triggers to what it is, and seeing that to go, okay, well, so-and-so did that. Oh, wow, that reminds me of something that happened when I was at high school, or that reminds me of something. So it's definitely about, it's all you, but sometimes people play a role from the past that has given you triggers that you haven't recognized before.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And I completely agree with you. It's to recognize. So I still say you created that. You created
absolutely.
that, you attracted that to kind of trigger yourself into it and bring about the awareness that there's something you need to acknowledge, you need to process through, you need to choose what you're going to do. Are you going to go and mire yourself into it more, or are you going to say, great, that shows that I'm in motion, I'm making different choices, and I can up level, because and like you just said too, it's actually got nothing to do with what the action of the other person was. It's the impact it had on you and how you made that happen. But the other piece that I just felt was important about what you were saying too is it's super, super important for us to keep coming back to our truth. What is our truth? Because sometimes we allow ourselves to get indoctrinated or take upon somebody else's truth, right? So it's like, am I really, taking off everybody else's part in the indoctrination?
I think, well, there's so much, and I say social influencers, and I'm not talking about an influencer Instagram. I'm talking about family members, anyone on social media, the news reporters, that's all a social influence, because Well, they're an influence, not an influencer, and we do take it on, and our brain has changed or our mindset has changed from when I was 10 years old, I think differently to when I was at high school, to when I was I didn't do university, but, when I went to that different level, and each year, our mind evolves. But there's also those things that we are holding on to, which is part of our anger and resentment to people. And you can't, well, I guess for me, you can't blame people for the shite you're in.
No, absolutely not.
Would be the, and this is what we're trying to, what Moira is saying is that you actually have to look and recognize this and move from there, which we're going to give you these tips, but also about just knowing that people will trigger you if you haven't resolved it. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, Bob, the next door neighbor who wears a blue shirt, and then I go down the street and I see an older gentleman who looks like Bob and he's got a red shirt on. Is that going to trigger me? Whatever it is. But it's recognizing those things and dealing with them each time, instead of just going, oh, there's a man I don't want to talk to, or there's a young girl I don't want to talk to. Mm-hmm. Any of that stuff. As soon as you see that, recognize that. That's your GPS. Like Moira was saying, that's your GPS to go, hang on, I'm off kilter here. Pull me back into line. What's really going on? And resolve it as quick as you can.
Mm-hmm. But in that too, you can actually have some appreciation for the person who triggered it for you.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
It's like to say, thank you. Okay, thank you, gentleman in the red check shirt.
Because of you, it's now alerted me to a fact that exactly. I have forgotten about this.
Yes.
Just like what we were talking about before, something had happened. I'm like, oh, now I remember this also happened. Yes. And then this happened. Hang on, that's not cool. I need to deal with this.
Right.
Only because we were openly talking about it. And I think that's the thing. So I sit in my head quite a bit, which is okay. But when you talk to somebody verbally, justify myself, which is okay. When you talk to somebody verbally, even some of the stuff when I say to Moira, I hear my words and I go, God, that's just ridiculous that you think like that, or da-da-da. So you actually think differently when you hear yourself. So
absolutely.
I encourage people to, when you hear yourself, actually record it. Just make sure nobody has access to your phone. Record it and rant and rave and whatever, and then just play it back and listen to yourself, and then go, oh my gosh, I was really emotionally charged then, or really? You really agree with that? That's just a BS sentence or something, so you can actually hear your words outside your mouth that has emotion attached to it, rather than in your head milling around.
I absolutely love that. I think the very important piece, though, is to not allow yourself to judge yourself. So if you recorded yourself and it was all about pity party or woe is me or this sucks or I'm pissed off with that or whatever the resentment or anger is, hopefully by you saying it out loud, it's discharged.
Well, that's the purpose of it, to get it out of your mind and
right.
Verbal diarrhea.
But then not to listen to it and go, oh my God, what a terrible person I am to have had those types of thoughts. Because I see that a lot where people get really shameful about, I suck because I entertain these ideas or these pieces of resentment, or it's not to judge you.
I would listen to it and go, oh my gosh, does my voice sound like that? Oh God, that's not a very good thing. Da, da, da. Oh, I say that word quite often. God, I didn't know that. but yes, you're right. It is the not judging. It's just, all it is just releasing the emotion or the shite out of your head.
Yep. It's just to bring up the awareness.
Yep.
And it's to bring up the awareness. So the other part about this is to bring up the awareness that maybe it's time to take a pause and look at the whole picture. Because for all of the negative shite that you're just talking about, there's also the positive joy-based appreciation. It's there. So where are you going to put your attention?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, okay, good. Now I can appreciate the fact that I've given vent to angers and resentment. Now I can sit and allow myself.
Now it's not.
Yeah. Allow the flow of what else is possible. How can I find joy or find peace or change my mindset about this situation or this scenario.
And just allow it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Allow it to be. Or even just ask yourself, what is my responsibility in this situation?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, when you, and I'm going to go back to my favorite thing that you've taught me is put your hand on your heart.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that, what is my responsibility?
Yeah.
And just putting your hand on your heart actually grounds you way more to what is my responsibility.
Because sometimes your responsibility is to walk away.
Yeah.
Or to put it down, or to tell a different story.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but know that whatever decision you make, that's not set in concrete.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
2 minutes later, another thought comes in that you feel is going to be more fulfilling to your soul, then do it. Don't feel like, oh, but before I said I need to record myself, and now I've actually found another way of doing something differently. Singing it out loud and not recording or whatever. Oh no, but I said I'm going to record myself, so I have to do that. Just know that things change a minute or two down the track.
Absolutely. Because the thing that I was just thinking as you were saying that is that we need to acknowledge that we are always becoming. We are always in a process. I liken it to being like a bit of a spiral, like we're always spiraling upwards. That rate of the up-leveling or the spiraling up is dictated by our own willingness and capacity to just keep flowing with what we're feeling, what we're thinking. And like you just said, just because I speak like this in this moment, or I have this emotion, or I think it's this way to express what I'm feeling, come back in an hour and it might be totally different.
Yeah.
Come back tomorrow and it might be a completely different choice. You have the right to do that. And the key piece is to always come back. And like Deb just said, my favorite is to put my hand over my heart and say, am I speaking my truth? Am I walking to the beat of my own drum? What am I choosing in this moment? And then what's the next better feeling? So when we have anger or resentment, those are definitely taps on our shoulder to, number one, feel it, express it. Obviously, if you're in the middle of a grocery store, you're not going to have a tantrum.
Well, you might.
You might.
You might not be able to go back to that grocery store again.
Yes, absolutely.
Drive 3 miles to get your groceries.
But so that's about being responsible and making space for what it is you're needing, honoring it, because your honor and respect of your own self is what's required of you. And so acknowledging sometimes we experience anger and resentment.
A quick wee message before we get back to this episode. You can get access to a special gift Moira and Debz have put together for you. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift. When you sign up, you'll receive instant access to an inner peace kit and the 30 Days of Wisdom program, both of which is intended to help you feel deliciously motivated right away. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift.
The other thing is, if you don't want to deal with it, that's okay as well. Like if you get angry over something or you feel resentment and you just go, I'm not going to deal with it, that's fine. However, there are consequences to parking things for a longer time, because it does come back and bite you in the tush. So, but if you feel at that time that you're not prepared mentally or physically to deal with it, then that's okay. I would suggest you diarize it for the next day and actually put it in the diary and know that tomorrow at 10 o'clock you're going to find a nice quiet space and you're going to work through this stuff.
Yep.
Because you've actually just gone, okay, I can't emotionally or physically deal with it because I've got a million things on right now, but I am going to deal with it. And I find I'm just a diary queen, so that I'm committed. If it's in my diary, I'm committed. And I know that the diary can move. Understand that. But if you just put it in, you're also saying to the universe, I am worthy.
Yes.
Just right now, I have to deal with this, and then I'll deal with it. And that's what you're saying. You're just giving yourself a pause or a breather and parking it until you can get to it. But ensure that you do get to it, because you do not want to leave things unturned.
Well, you don't want to break promises to yourself either. So what you just described to me is a promise to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you. So for me, I might write it in my diary or my daytimer. I might also put it on a Post-it note on my computer to say, this is going to happen. But do you know the other thing I might do? And I've done this oftentimes, is I take the tips of my 2 fingers and I tap 3 times on my third eye area. It's right between your eyebrows.
And
and
can you say where that area is for people?
What's that?
Say where that is so people can actually...
your forehead in between your 2 eyebrows, just a wee bit above your eyebrow line. It's kind of where your chakra of the third eye area is. The reason I'm doing that is that that's the area of insight, of inner awareness. And I'm acknowledging something's come up that I need to put insight on. But it's also a really good tip to help people remember things. So even if I want to make sure I remember something, I would just have it in my mind for a moment, just hold on to it. So this is almost like writing the bullet point or writing it in your daytimer, and then tapping 3 times on your third eye area, and that's it. Let it go, because you've captured it, and then you may revisit it just before you go to bed, or you could even then tap your third eye or just massage it a little bit before you go to bed and say, I'm going to resolve this. In my dream state, I'm going to resolve this. And let it go. Right? This is just, this is just a tip to, because the thing is that it's not about ruminating and beating yourself up. And
I know, that's exactly it. And not going, oh, I can't deal with it. That's going to take me 3 hours. I need to find a Zen moment, and I need to find time where I can sit with my legs crossed on my yoga mat. What if I take the mickey out of that? It's just because I don't have a yoga mat, and I don't sit with my legs crossed. But I need to find that whole time, and I can't find a quiet space, and I can't do this, and I can't do this. Well, it's just finding that time when you're doing it.
But making it too, because even if you can't do that, and it is not about carving out some big Zen, I have to sit and meditate on this for an hour. Maybe what you need to do is do that simple tapping on your forehead and take 3 to 5 deep belly breaths. And in particular, the type of breathing technique that's really good in this type of area is you breathe really fully in through your nose and hold it slightly at the top, and then breathe it out of your mouth audibly. So sigh it out. So and that is a signal to your entire force field of you that everything's fine.
I like that.
All is well in your world. Yeah,
and it's the simple stuff. We freaking overcomplicate stuff. It doesn't have to be complicated. The amount of times, and especially, and you would see it when you consult with people and they say, oh, I've got this, and this. You go, well, why don't you just do this? And they're like, oh. And you're like, I won't just write it down. I've got so much in my head. Okay, well, write your action list down.
Yeah.
Oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
And then I'm left with, oh my God, it's not like I'm really intelligent, but are they really thick? But we do get in such a situation that you just can't think logically sometimes. But we overcomplicate so much. But what if the pen doesn't run out? What if I lose that piece of paper? What if this happens? Like, well, what if it doesn't?
Exactly.
What if it doesn't?
What if it doesn't?
What if you write it down and you actually put it in your diary and you tap in your forehead and it works? Oh my gosh, what if?
Oh, Peter, yeah, what if? Who could you be with this?
Yeah. Resentment is just, one that, we did talk about the other person, and resentment comes, and I work on the wording fair exchange. I do something for you, you do something for me. Mm-hmm. And resentment comes into the bitterness when I do more for you and you don't do enough for me. For example, not Moira, because She actually does a heck of a lot behind the scenes, people.
I do a fair bit.
Yeah. And so that's where that resentment comes into play. So acknowledge that person that they've that it's come in because of them, and it goes back to those old patterns, because resentment isn't new to you. This is, if I did something to you now and you resented me, this is not completely new into your life. Mm-hmm. You've had this pattern, and go back as far as you possibly can to when you can remember this resentment, when someone's done this to you, and it's interesting, the weight thing. I've had someone recently, and it just amuses me. My mum told me that when I was 5 years old, that I'm never going to get myself a boyfriend, and I'm always going to be fat. I'll never get myself a husband. I'm always going to be fat. So they're now, 70 years old, and they're the size of a bus, and they've held on to that for 5 years, and they blame their mum. And it's like, no, your mum said that. 'Cause you're the one who's for the last 65 years has eaten and no exercise and done this, and this. It just amuses me that we hold on to that resentment for so long. And my mum hated me. She did this, and this. It's like, no, your mum may have said that. She may have thought it was the truth, but she also may have said that she thought it may have actually made you stop eating.
To inspire you to make healthy choices.
Yeah, not for you to go the other way. I'll show you, mum. I'll never have a husband. I'll eat, and it's just this resentment. So go back as far as you possibly can to that first resentment, if you can, or even just chunk back to the last resentment, and resolve it, and love your mother for, and I say mother just because that was one that recently came up with me with somebody. Love your mother for saying those things to you, because just like what we said, she may have thought that was going to inspire you to change your eating patterns.
To just acknowledge that she was doing the best with what she knew.
And I think that's the thing we forget. She was doing the best with what she had at that time. And definitely our minds have changed. Our worlds have changed. There's so much evolution from when our grandparents were our age, to our parents our age, to where we are now, to our children, our grandchildren, or whatever, all our legacies from young and old. We never had a TV remote. I was the TV remote, So, and things are so simple now. You can even change the TV on your phone. It's scary to think how we've evolved so quickly. But they had the best of what they could and used whatever they could at that time. So please don't blame them. Love them for who they are. Be grateful and look at what's really going on for you. Why are you holding on to this stuff?
So why are you holding on to this stuff, and why is there a refusal for you to take authorship of your own life experience? Because, your story that you just shared there, Debz, is a really good example of what I've said to people before, is that resentment is like sentencing yourself to have a life of drinking nothing but poison, hoping that kills the other person.
I don't mean to laugh, but you're bloody right.
It's like, I'll show you. I'll just keep drinking this because I'll show you. Right?
I'll show you how it goes. Who's that working for?
Because the other part in all of this too is that, sometimes resentment can be because somebody said or didn't say something, and then you go off and you've got this whole big attachment, like, oh, they never loved me or they never supported me. Meanwhile, this person who did or didn't say what you wanted them to do has gone off and
no idea,
no freaking clue, and gone on to be very successful or have a happy life. In the meantime, you've created this big cloud around you, which you then judge everything and all the opportunities and choices in front of you, as opposed to saying, I have resentment in me and I can choose to vent it out however way I want to, whatever way is the right way. There are many, many tools that I teach clients, from emotion freedom technique or EFT technique, which is a really good way to own it, feel it, and let it go.
Send it on its way.
Send it on its way. Other ways are things like writing it all out and then burning the piece of paper. With anger is actually a really good one, because anger, we have the right to anger. Anger's not wrong or a bad thing to have. It's
just a word.
It's just a word. It's a feeling. It's an emotion. But if you need to punch a pillow, stamp your feet, scream,
do a rain dance.
Do a rain dance. Only the individual can ascertain what is it they need. You know, I always remember working with a client many years ago who was enraged by a cheating husband, and she was so full of anger. And so I kept saying to her, "You're going to have to vent this. We have to get it out of you." And so I was giving her all these different ideas, and she was like, "Oh no, she couldn't do that. She couldn't do that." She's very, very quite proper.
Oh gosh, okay.
And so it took me about 3 or 4 sessions. And one day she came in for a session. She was like a completely transformed person. Like it was like a 10-ton weight had been lifted off her. So I'm like, "Oh my God, what happened?" She says, "You're right. Expressing my anger was the exact right thing to do." So I was like, "So what did you do?"
You went, uh-oh.
No, you know what? It was really cool. What she did, she went through, she found all her photograph albums. They'd been married for like 25 years. She found all the photographs of him in it. She spread them all out on the bedroom floor, got dressed up in her best outfit and her stiletto heels, and stomped on all.
I love that she got dressed up to do it, not just,
That was great. Yeah.
It's like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it in heels, and this is how I'm going to do it. Yeah.
But she did it, and she said it was she did it she did it when her kids were away, so she knew she had the whole house to herself. She said she ended up doing
that.
Exactly. She ended up accessing this real playful energy within her because she'd actually flushed out herself.
Yeah.
Her way. That was her way. It's not going to fit for everybody, but.
And I think so. That's one way, but then next time that way may not work for her.
Exactly.
So and this is about life being flexible. Is that okay? Well, do those tips that Moira said. Write the letter and burn it, or scream, or go for a run, or go do something. My suggestion is definitely. Yeah, definitely. My suggestion is clearly avoid drugs or alcohol if you can.
Yes.
And avoid social media messaging.
Yes.
That's probably my only things I'd say avoid, because once it's done and you wake up in the morning and you've realized what you've done, there's a little bit of resentment comes into you, and then you try and blame the other person, but no, it's you who's done it. So be aware of those things. But just know what works today may not work tomorrow. But if that really works for you, then go for it. And I love that she, like you said, she brought her playful energy out there.
Mm-hmm.
She did that stuff, and it was very different. But I'd like to just say, you don't have to take other people down with you. No. Is the other thing. You don't have to tell the kids about certain stuff, and your father did this and your father did that, or your nana did this and your grandfather did that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to scoop a whole lot of people on your crazy train. Stay on your own crazy train and drive it, and be accountable to that. You don't need people to add into it.
That's a really important part to do, because that is taking complete ownership for your emotions. You don't need to, because in telling that story, you are justifying your position and trying to take, get people to on board with your side, or to justify how you're feeling. It's like, no, you don't need that.
And justify your actions when you do actions, to go, oh, I did this, is that okay? And you know those crazy friends. You can say to your friends, I did this, and they can just laugh their head off and go, oh my God, I've done worse, and they've done one up, and they make you feel better. We've all got those friends. But you don't have to play that game. And I truly encourage you not to play that game. And it's gratitude. Gratitude gets you through so much. Gratitude that it's happened. Gratitude that you've recognized it. Gratitude that you're still alive. Gratitude that you have another opportunity to do something.
And that you always have the ability to choose, and to is that whole thing about responsibility. It's the ability to respond. always have the ability to respond, even to ourselves. I have the ability to respond to whatever inner critic or judgy party is going on in my head.
Yeah, abilities. Well, I was actually, I know we're coming up to time, but I just remembered, it's our teachers at school have played such a vital role in our mentorship of who we are. And one of the girls I know, she's just got, she's got a successful business now, and just gone and paid cash for a very flash car. And, and she said, if you, she posted on social media, if you to the teacher who said I wouldn't amount to anything, Aww. And so she's held on to that for so long. And yeah, great that she's doing this and she's out doing a business, but she doesn't have to blame that teacher, because the teacher just go, you're not going to amount to anything. But that could be them just saying, just like mum says, if you're going to continue eating, you're not going to get a husband or whatever it is, but that's exactly the same sort of stuff as you're not going to amount to anything. That could be their drive, because out of the 10 kids they've said it to, 2 of them have gone out and gone, I'll show you, teacher. The amount of singers who were told they could never sing, oh, you're not going to do anything when you're out of school, you won't be a singer. And you look at them now, there's people who do this stuff. And yes, our teachers have played such a large role in mentoring us, but it's us who's given our own drive. It doesn't have to be because of the teachers said or did whatever they did.
Absolutely. Well said. No, and it's always about, we created that. So if I want to be a good whatever it is, and I can look back, and we all can, about people not believing in us, or saying, oh, you'll never amount to that, or you can't do that.
But that's like fuel for fire for me. You're not gonna.
Me too.
You're not gonna be able to do that. And I'm like, I can feel that rise in front of me. Not the, it's the, I'll show you.
No, it's like I'll decide. I will decide. I'll decide what I can and cannot do. Coming back to what is true for you. Yes. I hope these tips.
I know. I'm sure. I'm dying to see this one go live and find out what everyone's thinking. Please let us know how you get on. I'm grateful we had this opportunity to talk about it today, for releasing anger or resentment. So Moira, where are you on the scale of, you were 2 before,
yes,
where were you on the scale of 0 Zen?
At 0 Zen. I'm feeling pretty good about this. I love this kind of feeling emotions and letting them go. And I put myself at 0.
I was sitting there going, I'm a 0. I'm a 0.5. I'm a 0. I feel really, I'm going to say the word perfect. I feel, it just feels perfection around. Neutral.
Neutral is the good place. That's what I feel.
Oh, wow. By crikey, you lot, you better have upped your numbers. Because you'll put us both back down to a 10. No, you won't.
No, we'd love to hear how these tips resonate, and if you have any issues that you'd like us to help you with, please.
Or any of your stories of how you've got, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Moira. Thank you, listeners. It's been insightful. And who would have thought we're both a 0?
Thank you, dear Debz.
I look forward to next week. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Moira.
Thanks, Debz. Thanks, listeners. Bye-bye.